So it's July 16th, 1945, in a desert area known as the Jornada del Muerto in the Almagadoro Air Base. What happened? If the radiance of 1,000 suns were to burst into the sky, that would perhaps be like Splendor, the Mighty One. The first nuclear explosion is what happened. And what happened at the same time was imaginative description of a possible nuclear explosion? Far from it. In fact, it was a poetic rendering of the explosive nature of mystical ecstasy written thousands of years ago on the banks of the Gange. The Mighty One, emanation of the Godhead, grants an awestruck Arjuna his first staggering insight into the mysteries of the inner self. He continued, I am become death, the shatterer of worlds. What this was a convergence of Eastern and Western mysticism and science. Ironically, the scientific accomplishment destroyed one of the basic premises that had started Western scientific thinking on its course some 25 centuries ago in Greece, the integrity and indivisibility of the atom. So, welcome to Evolutionary Theology. It's time to drink a PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon. If you're not familiar with my show, I've been doing this evolutionary theology thing, the videos at least, for about 3 years now, I think. And I wrote my evolutionary theology theory way back in, starting in like 2001, 2002 is when I had the first draft. And so I've been promoting it ever since. It is my life. It's what I believe in. I am a schizoaffective individual, neurodivergent, I guess they would say. I had a very meaningful experience with regards to religion and the religious aspect of feeling the presence of God. So this book really speaks to me in the fact that it helps me along my journey to understand some of the principles of evolutionary theology that I put forth, and helps to further, explain why actually this means so much to me and why I want to present it to others. And actually the reason for me doing this particular series on the Eye of Shiva is that I've gotten a lot of interest on my channel, the Tommy Wood YouTube channel, about this particular video. It's a 52 second clip that just basically really briefly describes this book, and I've gotten like 500 views on the little clip, and so I was like, wow, and I got a couple of comments on it as well. So I feel there's a real interest in the community for a discussion of this book, and that's what I'm about to embark on in this journey. There are, let's see, how many chapters are there? There are 8 chapters, so there's going to be 8 segments to this video, maybe a conclusion, I don't know, but I do have to tie it all into evolutionary theology, so we'll see how that winds up. This is the introduction in chapter 1, so sit back and enjoy as I delve into this. The introduction, really, there's a statement in the beginning by Gopi Krishna Yoga from Yoga, A Vision of Its Future, that says, the only channel through which we can have a glimpse of this hidden creation, of this invisible world of consciousness and intelligence, is the all-seeing eye of Shiva, which can penetrate to the hidden levels of existence impervious to normal sight. I do base my worldview on fundamentals of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, however you may speak of it, and I do relate my Christian beliefs to the quantum theory, and it relatively explains, the Holy Trinity once you get into my theory. But we're not discussing my theory right now. We're discussing this book, and we're going to get into the first chapter of The Eye of Shiva, Eastern Mysticism and Science, and the first chapter is called Science and Religion. So let's embark on this next journey as it unfolds in such a wonderful way, which is just amazing and mind-blowing and mind-boggling. You can see my universe shirt that I'm wearing, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. So we're really gonna take this step by step. Science and religion. What does it mean? Are there relations between science and religion? Let's just start with it. First of all, this book is not available in print anymore. So if you want to find, I think there are some used copies around. I'm not sure how much they are. Someone commented on my YouTube channel that the book costs $1,000. I don't know if that's true or not. I looked it up, and the only thing I could really tell was that the book has been discontinued and is not available for purchase at all on Amazon. It did refer to some other bookseller that was related to Amazon, but I didn't follow that up or see if it was actually available there or not. All I know that it is not available on Amazon right now, and they do not know if or when it will be available in the future. So let's just start out with the very first sentence of Chapter 1, Science and Religion. Our point of departure lies quite naturally in the fact that it is easier today for the thoughtful man to have a spiritual outlook on life than it was a century ago. Why do we say that? Because it's the fact that the further we get into science, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. It begins, listing out different scientific minds, starting in 1900, really, when the birth of quantum physics really happened. We have these. So, what it was in 1900, Max Planck actually discovered that there existed a fundamental and irrevocable discontinuity where it was at least expected the exchange of energy between an elementary material system, atom molecule, and the radiation of light and heat. In other words, there were no intermediate energies between two neighboring energy levels. So, Max Planck, discovered that energy exists in quanta, which are little bits. They're not like it's not like waves flowing. It's like a machine gun bullets coming out, like lead, like pop 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 pop, pop, like quanta. Like they're measured. They can be measured specifically to a tiny small size. But also, Albert Einstein in 1905 described the special theory of relativity, and rejecting the theory of space as a particular framework, and that everything was relative, especially time, to the speed at which an individual is traveling, or a person or object, and that person or object traveling at increasing speed would have increasing mass up to infinity. And then further on, it describes other pioneers in the quantum physics field, like Niels Bohr and Heisenberg, and Warner. Let's take this slow because it's really important. Talking about black holes, like the gravity is so strong, and the light is basically. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Okay, so we're crossing a historical watershed, comparable in scope to the birth of Christianity some 2,000 years ago. So it's a new spiritual vision beginning to take place in the world. This was back in 1980, and one of the things that I talk about in evolutionary theology is that I feel that 100 years ago, when quantum mechanics, quantum physics was discovered and basically started and investigated truly, is when the world started going off the deep end into stupidity. So really, this book from 1980, which they've discontinued, which really should be, reading for everyone. I mean, it's really ridiculous how they have taken this off the market, because it's important that through the previous centuries of science, we moved up to a particular point where spirituality was less regarded as true because it seemed like myth or just stories, mythological, fictitious stories or just symbolism, that kind of told a story about a specific culture or area of interest from different religious different countries had different religions, obviously, because we have different cultures, but there's one main theme that is coherent to them all, and that's a way of life. The right path, the eightfold path, the Zen, the way. I am the way, or it's a way of life. Religiosity is a way of life, and it's more evident to the person who leads that way of life, who feels such a way because of the way they lead, that spiritual way of life is important. So through these impressions of ultimate solid substances are deceptive. So we have to realize that the material world that had been discovered in the previous centuries and described as being able to be measured could not actually be measured and was actually divvied up into probability. So it was decided that matter was condensed energy. Matter is condensed energy and exists in quanta, and that light existed in waves. But wait a minute, light was discovered to have photons, actually quanta, individual bits of light, quanta of photon quanta that could be measured. What is this all about? And then come to find out, matter could actually be measured in waves, and that is it's the psi field that these waves and particles exist within, where they're measured, and you can't measure an exact location and know the particular velocity at the same time with the same exactitude. So what it is, when you're measuring an aspect of a particle of light or matter, it's affected somehow, and so it was misunderstood as to why light could be a wave or a particle at different times. But we come to realize that the measurement that we enact upon those waves actually causes the light. I don't want to say more than the book says because I know what I believe and what I've studied in quantum physics, but there, you know, light does exist in waves and particles, and so does matter, or compressed particles of energy. And atoms, which are made up of energy, which make matter, are basically empty voids of space. And if you took all the material of the atoms that composed all of mankind and compressed it down, it would make up about the same size as a large grain of rice. So really, matter is empty space with energy that's just vibrating in a probabilistic state to where it can't even be measured accurately. I know this sounds kind of confusing, and I'm trying to put it together in certain terms, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult to discuss, and I do hope you go and read my Theory of Evolutionary Theology, wood83115.wixsite.com/my site. It's a good read. I think you'll enjoy it. It explains why the quantum principles can explain the Trinity of Christianity. And so that's basically what my theory leads to. And I am a Christian, by the way, but I am more of an Eastern idealist. I'm more idealism focused on the conscious substrate of reality, and this book does allude to the fact that there is a conscious substrate to reality which cannot be measured, but we really have to put the consciousness factor back in the fundamental spot of our understanding instead of matter. Because when the Western materialistic scientists come to find their ultimate discoveries in science, it proves that reality doesn't even really exist. It's a probability that is experienced through a conscious observer. So Niels Bohr, that's who was on I believe that's who's on my shirt right now. I believe that's Niels Bohr. I just saw his name in here. Let's see. Oh shoot, I lost it. This book is so fun to read. I was getting ready for work this morning. I started reading it. I was almost late for work because I couldn't stop reading it. Okay, this probability calculations, as are only mathematical tools at the subatomic level, this amounts to saying that the physics can only go so far and no further in its objective study of nature because it collides with an ultimate barrier set up by nature itself, taking into account the limitations imposed by our sensorial apparatus. Radioactive substances which we enact upon atoms to measure them changes their existence. So, it's impossible to measure something, without changing it. And so there's an interdependence upon the event and the measurement upon the event which we're enacting, so that the measurement actually changes the event. So we can't really be sure if that event would have come to pass if we didn't make the measurement. So that's where consciousness again comes into play from the observer. So James Jeans, I guess that's how you pronounce that. I don't know if it's French or not. James Jones. If it was Jacques, I would say Jones, but it's James, so I'm saying James. Points out is that the ultimate process of nature neither occur in nor admit of representation in space and time. So when we look at time, time is relative as a function of speed. And mass is relative as a function of speed as well. So really, two different observers can observe two different things and report two different observations for the same event. So it's really the probability is what it boils down to. To sum up, the world we see and experience in everyday life is simply a convenient mirage attuned to our very limited senses, an illusion conjured by our perception and our mind. All that is around us, including our own bodies, which appears to be so substantial, is ultimately nothing but an ephemeral network of particle waves, whirling around at lightning speed, colliding, rebounding, disintegrating in almost total emptiness. So-called matter is mostly emptiness, proportionally as void as intergalactic space, void of anything except occasional dots and spots and scattered electric charges. Where does this science all lead us? So 1927, probably the most crucial year in the development of new physics. Wolfgang Pauli, one of the most eminent scientists and pioneer in quantum physics, told Werner Heisenberg that he thought of the so-called conflict between science and religion was precisely the idea of an objective world running its course in time and space according to a strict causal laws that produced a sharp clash between science and the spiritual formulations of the various religions. If science goes beyond this strict view, and it has done just that with relativity theory, and is likely to go even further with quantum theory, then the relationship between science and the contents religions try to express must change once again. Perhaps science, by revealing the existence of new relationships during the past 30 years, may have lent our thought much greater depth. So, through the discoveries that we've made in science over the past century, it is easier for a man to conceive religiosity and religious and deeper innate thought based on conscious understanding than it was before these things were introduced to our scientific body of knowledge. So the skepticism that arose throughout the discoveries of science as far as a heliocentric or Earth-centric view of astronomy. So it was first imagined that Earth was the center of the universe, which gave meaning to religiosity. And then coming to find out, no, the sun is at the center of our galaxy, and we're not even at the center of our universe. We're at the outer edge somewhere. So where does that place us in the importance of the universe? Like, we couldn't really be that important, but what it is that we share with each other, that what we can know empirically through our own experience, is that each of us individually have a conscious mind which we can experience reality with. And that's the only thing that we can really be sure of, is our conscious mind. So we want to take this consciousness that we feel and experience and delve deeper into that and take away, strip away all the superficial nonsense that comes along with religious dogmas and symbolism and things of that nature, and just understand we've got to come to a point down to some fine grain where we can all agree on something, and that is consciousness, the consciousness aspect of the human experience, where we can know and understand ourselves, and that we feel like we are alive and we have this conscious factor that can actually impress upon the universe itself, be it material or immaterial. Here we're talking about how it's immaterial, but we impress upon that immaterial facet of the universe in its probabilistic nature, and that we affect it somehow with our consciousness. Martin Luther thought that Copernicus was a fool who would fain turn topsy-turvy the whole art of astronomy by coming up with his heliocentric idea of the universe, or the galaxy at least. But religion's taken a lot of blows over the past few centuries, and I really feel like delving into the understanding of consciousness is really important for the understanding of religiosity, and that we can take it to a higher level, to that unseen level, that level that we can only feel to know, that level that we have to look deep within ourselves to discover. We can't look out into the so-called physical universe to discover ourselves. We have to look within our own consciousness, our unconscious mind. That's why I feel that meditation is so important. I do it on a regular basis, not so much as I would like, but yeah, I'll take out the trash, Alexa. Shut up.
To take out the trash cans.
Okay, thank you, Alexa. Oh, she had to tell me 3 times. Gosh, Alexa, I will take out the trash. And today was Labor Day, so your point is moot. Trash didn't even be picked up till Wednesday because today was Labor Day, so that the trash guys had a day off. So don't even talk to me about that, Alexa. And so my theory of evolutionary theology does delve deeper into the fact of why our fundamental conscious and quantum nature is dependent upon a substrate of reality, which is caused by something. What that is, can be explained through the law of accelerating returns by Ray Kurzweil, meaning that information technology is exponentially accelerating and has accelerated in the past. That's a whole nother bag of worms, so to speak. The last major component of Western creeds had to collapse along with the teleological concept, the idea that the world is a moral order, that the divine power ruling the world is a righteous one, striving to instill moral goodness in man. From being objective, moral values have shifted to being largely subjective, and the world process has become totally detached from morality. And we can definitely see that in the world today, because the more people that disbelieve in God and don't respect God or a conscious force which is driving our universe, the more people think that just everything, whatever you want to do, is permissible. Like, you do whatever you want. Like, there's no repercussions. It doesn't matter what you do because life is meaningless and pointless. But that's not what this book is trying to say. It's trying to point to the fact that for a true religious experience, you have to delve deep within your unconsciousness and look inward upon self-reflection and thinking about the consciousness that drives us forward, because we cannot, given the facts of science that we've learned thus far since the 1900s, we cannot say that there is a material objective universe out there beyond our minds. What exists is only our minds and consciousness. And that conscious factor that exists emanates from somewhere beyond this reality. So even though it may seem infinite and meaningless, there is a purpose and there is a compound of intellectual commitment, translational belief, volition, emotion, and sentiment, which varies from one religion to the other, but is always present. So, even the Hindu who reads in the epic Mahabharata, hard is the great path, and few are they who travel it to the end. This is the way of the mystic, and the destination is mysterious, ineffable, that is literally beyond verbal description, inexpressible in any language, although it can be hinted at in pictures and metaphors, music, and poetry, as Dante expressed in La Divina Commedia when describing his own beatific vision. Now shall my speech fall farther short of even what I can remember that an infant's who still bathes his tongue at breast. This way and its destination, heaven, salvation of the soul, freedom from rebirth, nirvana, return to Brahman, or whatever, however differently expressed, is what all religions have in common. And it is here, in the direct records of the personal experiences of the great mystics, that the heart of the religious impulse is to be found, rather than in the official dogmas and conflicting intellectual interpretations of philosophers and theologians. So it is really a personal experience that can carry you on into understanding consciousness and the idea of religiosity and a higher power. So you really, what it's saying is you have to experience it for yourself, or either, look to those who have experienced such a profound thing that's happened in their mind to where it makes them think that what they have thought previously is not worth a straw of hay. So everything I thought previously is not worth a straw of hay compared to what I just experienced in my mind when I thought inwardly about my own consciousness and about the consciousness of the universe that propels our existence forward. So, coming from the most eminent scientists of our century, this moving expression of spiritual emotion should give food for thought to all those skeptics who suffer from tunnel vision. So really, if you don't look for ideas involving consciousness and your inward self and exploring your connection to the universe, you're going to be looking straight forward always. But if you want to look all the way around you, you really need to understand this consciousness aspect of reality, which contemporary physics, science of the Western world is creating and converging with Eastern mysticism, in that reality is an illusion. And we must accept that to move forward in science. And we must accept consciousness as a fundamental aspect of science that we need to research and further and study. So our approach will take into account the basic components of both the Eastern and Western types of consciousness, which underlie their respective groups of higher cultures, starting from the original matrix out of which they both sprang, the magic mind. And we'll delve into the magic mind, the next chapter. Next time when we come back, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope I didn't confuse you. I hope those of you that are consciousness-minded or philosophically oriented have kept up with my my pattern of speech, my tongue, so to speak, so that we can move on through this book progressively deeper to gain a better understanding of why religion is basically evolving into being described by science. So that's really where this book is taking us. I hope you've enjoyed the first chapter, Science and Religion, and I'll be back with you soon. Please check out my website, Evolutionary Theology. I'll put a little tag on there with my final exiting music. And I really hope you've enjoyed this segment and can gain some insight into the book, The Eye of Shiva by Amari Reincourt, because it's discontinued and you cannot buy it new anymore. So luckily I have a copy. I think I'm blessed by God by having this copy because I am a philosophical and very deep thinking individual, and I think it suits me to be the one to carry on this knowledge into the internet to where I'm putting it out there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show, the rest of the series. Excuse me. Yeah, this is about it for this segment here, but thank you and good night.